Yeah, this is the way.
Seriously, this is the way.
The way.
This is my way. Seriously, like this is.
Yeah.
If I had my way,
Right.
I would have all the way.
We're not just going to be talking about The Mandalorian, though, for this
That's true.
podcast.
That's
because
true.
The Mandalorian has kind of revived a bit of a spark for Star Wars that, you know, we've always had, but it's kind of helped at least me, really remember one of the main reasons why I love Star Wars.
For real. Hey, Khalid 101. So are you the only person here?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Here comes everybody. Here we go. Leaf paper towels. Blazing hedge.
Hesso, indeed. That's tomorrow.
Yes,
but,
yes.
Yeah.
But we accept all fans in here.
Indeed.
For this time to celebrate.
What?
It's a good time to be a Star Wars fan.
It is. And we can actually say that. Like think about it. Even with, you know, the sequel trilogy.
We believed. We did.
We did. Yeah.
I still hold to it that in some ways, I still think that The Last Jedi actually has a lot of good qualities to it.
Yep.
But Rise of Skywalker, oh boy.
Well,
boy.
But yes, exactly. That's the important thing.
We don't need the movies when we
don't
have
need
TV
the movies.
shows like these.
And that's the thing.
Holy crap.
Star Wars has never needed the movies, other than like right when the original trilogy came out, basically. Like,
well, in some ways, like going back, do you remember the excitement for not necessarily the Phantom Menace, but when there was all this excitement about people talking about Star Wars again, and we had just recently been introduced to the movies by about that time.
Yep.
I think you had been introduced to the movies at age 6 or 7.
somewhere around there.
I think
but
that's
even
right.
before I watched them, like I knew of them. I was like, it was one of those things where because people talked about it so much, I was excited to watch Star Wars before I even knew if I would like Star Wars.
Same.
You know?
Yep. For me, I was introduced to Star Wars at age, I believe, 8. And it was that my grandpa had the 3 original movies without any edits or anything.
Yeah, original box set.
Like with
VHS.
the human Jabba, like OG stuff. And he showed me A New Hope. And the cool thing is that when I went to go and start the movie, my dad came in because he heard the intro thing, and he's like, no, you're watching this with me. Like, he basically claimed it and was like, no, Caleb, you're totally going to watch this, but we're going to watch it together, father and son. And I was like, oh, okay, Dad, yeah, sure. And Grandma was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't mean to take away that
Tread on
experience
sacred
from you.
ground.
Yeah, exactly. So then, like, that week, he introduced me to Star Wars. I fell in love with it instantly. But I remember that time of when he was excited for a new Star Wars movie. He was like, "Oh, it's gonna be great." And of course, you know, Lucasfilm advertising everywhere.
Oh yeah.
You know, all the stuff and everything. But it's a new age. Star Wars has 9 movies of the trilogies under their belt,
right,
plus 2 additional movies that are little spin-off movies that I think each have their special niche that they enjoy. And in some ways, they stand out in the test of time a little bit longer than the sequel trilogy does, because the sequel trilogy, it's all supposed to be connected, but it's
really not.
Really not,
Because it's almost like those movies were made to be standalone movies, so if the directors had a particular thing that they wanted to do, they didn't have to worry about stepping on other people's toes. Yeah.
But now, God bless Dave Filoni. He has worked so hard. He has come so far. All the people working with him need to be praised as well. But Dave Filoni was in the trenches. He was there, the Jedi apprentice of Lucas himself, learning from the master. And now he has been bequeathed with power and purpose. And he is here.
Unfathomable power.
No, without fathom. Yeah.
It means without fathom, yeah.
And God, The Mandalorian, it's just the live action culmination of everything that he's worked for coming to see fruit. And God, I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
So there's 2 different parts of me with how I approach The Mandalorian, basically, right? There's the part of me that loves Mandalorian specifically, and that part of me is just I mean, what is this life?
Yeah.
I never thought this would happen, right? But then there's the other part of me that's like, even if it wasn't Mandalorians, it's the idea that Mandalorians definitely don't hurt.
That helps, yeah.
It certainly helps.
Totally.
But it's the idea that we're basically going into the EU all over again.
Yep.
Even though it's not the EU. It's a new extended universe and all of that stuff, but the whole reason why I really fell in love with Star Wars in the first place,
tell 'em.
like not just the initial, I want to check out what the Star Wars thing is that everybody seems to like so much.
Hit 'em with
but it
it.
was because the world just kept going.
It kept
Like-
going and growing, and they made new stuff.
Yeah.
Books, movies, games,
As
spin-offs,
much-
all this stuff.
Yep. As much as I wanted to be a fan of Star Wars, there was content for it. Like Wikipedia dives were one of my favorite things.
Oh, yes.
Like going
yes.
to the library and being like, okay, I know exactly the decimal system place or whatever within the library where they keep the tabletop RPG books.
Yep.
And then I just grab literally every single Star Wars one that they had in there. This was back in Saga edition.
Right.
And just read them.
Yep.
Like, yes, for the idea of like, oh yes, if I play a Star Wars game one day, I'll make a character or whatever. But a lot of it was just for the lore.
Oh, totally.
Just to be like, yep, let's just get into this world, and there was no limit.
There was almost like nothing
It was amazing.
that we didn't want. Let me phrase it in positives. Whenever we wanted for more in the Star Wars universe, it was there.
Right.
And-
there was that infinite supply.
And every year, more and more would get added. Then Disney comes along and kind of scares everyone for a little bit because we're like, oh no, House of Mouse,
yeah.
they could do some damage. We're here. It's been a rough time, but I think with the TV shows, I can safely say it's getting good.
Yeah.
It's getting really good.
Because like
Oh.
I remember like man, there were so many books that I would read that were basically just Star Wars fan fiction, but
Oh, yeah.
but semi-approved so that, in the
Semi-approved.
EU and everything, right?
Right.
And some of them were not that great, Some of them I still to this day, even if I haven't maybe reread them in a very, very long time, I still think they're great books. There was this one called Ghosts of Tatooine or something like that.
Oh yeah.
And it was basically this book that took place like 6 months after episode 6, and it's Leia coming to terms with the fact that she realized that since her and Luke are brother and sister, that means Vader was her father.
Yep.
Oh my god, my home planet got blown up by my own father. He was this terrible person, but apparently he also saved everyone by killing the Emperor at the end.
Right.
How do I reconcile those things?
Yeah.
And it was this wonderful thing where they took the idea of her latent sort of force abilities, like coming into play, and the idea of I need to fix this within myself. I need to make sure that this is dealt with because otherwise it could go to a bad place. And it was this wonderful story.
Yep.
Didn't need to necessarily be referenced by any of the books or anything like that. It was great.
Yep.
It was awesome.
Didn't need any grand narrative with space battles or all that other stuff. Let's just explore. Let's just have fun, and let's just play around in the Star Wars universe. And that's basically what this podcast is going to be about how The Mandalorian is basically promising us that while they might eventually start pushing a little bit of an overarching narrative, which, you could say that they already have one. It's, find a good place for little baby Yoda.
Yep.
I don't think it necessarily needs one.
Nope.
One of the things that's really, really fun about The Mandalorian is just seeing him go from place to place, just trying to figure out how to make do with his little not son. Because, you know what? I don't really need that much to enjoy Star Wars.
Yeah.
I don't even really need all these name drops, although I really do like them, of like, here's a specific, speeder that you're going to recognize. Here's a specific, species you're going to recognize. Here's a character that was a main character in the Clone Wars, by the way. No big deal.
Uh-huh.
But just seeing a character who's not even necessarily giving us this over the top, dramatic, mind bending performance. Although there are some cool moments and stuff like that, but just going from place to place, a true like little wanderer, giving us a look at the Star Wars universe that maybe at times we haven't gotten that kind of look before.
Yeah, like
a different perspective.
Characters are almost always the most important part to a story for me.
Yeah.
But Star Wars is one of those weird exceptions where it isn't. Like, the characters in Star Wars, let's be real, like a lot of them are great and I love them, but they're not the selling point.
No.
It's the setting, right?
It's the whole
it's the whole the galaxy. I'm running a Star Wars tabletop RPG right now. And there is literally the amount of resources I can just use that are just out there is wonderful. There is a legit galaxy map with like trade routes and like hyperspace lanes and named planets, and I can just pull it up and be like, oh yeah,
I have
cool.
hundreds of locations
all listed on here. Where do you guys want to go?
Yep.
Like that's something that I can just do, and that's not like new stuff. That's just something that's sort of always kind of been out there. We actually probably have RPG books to thank for that, but
that's true. And a lot of EU stuff specifically.
Right.
But like I can see it with you guys chatting in here, just talking about all your stuff where you guys, your family, and just everyone else in general are more excited for Star Wars now because of The Mandalorian. But like that's because we have people behind The Mandalorian that really, really love Star Wars making it. I gotta say, it's something that I hope Disney is kind of at that point where they've now just made their money back and they're like, okay, we'll
give you the freedom to start doing things with this franchise in more like creative ways.
Right, at the fundamental level, not at the what new characters and stories do you want to tell, but the what kind of anything do you want to make? Do you want to make a game specifically set, within like the idea of you're one of Luke's new apprentices or what have you, forming up, and they could make a game about that. That would be wonderful.
Yep.
You could have one that I heard that they scrapped, unfortunately, because I think that's more of an EA thing. But of you just being a rogue person out on the fringes of space, just trying to survive. It was
cool.
more of an open world RPG. That one got scrapped apparently, but. Just kind of play around in the universe. We don't care about Skywalkers. In fact, please stop.
Don't ever bring up Skywalkers again.
Like, we saw what you did with the last stuff, and I admire the effort at where it was, because there was effort. There was a lot of it put into it. But no,
the characters are not the thing.
The characters are not the thing. It's the themes, it's the feel, it's the atmosphere. It's in the little moments where we see Din Djarin, I think that's his name, the Mandalorian, having just a casual conversation with the guy who's wearing the fan service armor. But just about like, what's your life been like? And then he gives his over the top dramatic story about how he was the hero and stuff, which might be fully accurate and stuff like that. But that was just a tie-in to a character from a book that apparently was out there. But, anyone that just drops in to watch an episode of The Mandalorian, they don't
necessarily know that. Yeah.
No.
Like, Star Wars, I feel like can be, because the galaxy is so huge, because you can go for, crazy epic fantasy, basically, with the Jedi and the Sith, or you can do like, hey, let's do a hard look into, the military and the idea of the war machine and like what it can be like for regular soldiers that are just trying to survive basically the crazy environments that they're soldiers. Well, yeah like okay, so one of the games that I've been getting back into recently is the second Knights of the Old Republic game.
Good game.
Now, if you haven't played any of the Knights of the Old Republic games, I highly recommend them. Even if you're not into Star Wars, like they're some of the best RPGs out there in my mind. Like they're just they're really good. The gameplay, like they're old games, right? But basically just took D&D, like 3rd edition D&D basically, ported it into Star Wars. And there you go. Here's a story, and it's wonderful. And the first one was definitely like the most sort of
hope.
A New Hope vanilla. They have a really cool twist in there, that definitely had a big effect on people.
Yep.
But then there's the second one, which like is probably my favorite, and you need to like get the mod for it and everything because it was rushed when it was produced and everything. So the original game is kind of not finished, but on Steam there's the mod for it that fixes it up and everything, and it's wonderful. But it tells this totally different story that with like really good lore stuff, like Tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise kind of good lore stuff on just let's explore the idea of the Force. How do the Jedi actually do their thing? Well, there's, the EU had touched on at that point ideas of like, telepathy and reading the future and things like that. But if Jedi were truly
What they
psychically connected to people in the universe around them, and the universe, it's an energy field that surrounds all living things, right? What would happen if, say, one of them got traumatized in war?
Would that affect those around them?
Yeah, would that affect those around them? How would they deal with that?
Yeah.
Since Jedi are keepers of the peace, not soldiers, what happens when they actually need to become soldiers or choose to become soldiers?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's
it's just another adventure in the Star Wars universe that takes an idea, runs with it, and in some ways subverts a lot of the usual Star Wars by the formula, by the book kind of story beats, because it's a game for one.
Sure.
But also because it's just telling a different style of story from a different perspective.
Yep.
So, we won't go into spoilers or anything like that, but that's just another example of something that's out there in the Star Wars universe and all the stuff that, like, Khalid was saying, like, or sorry, not Khalid, but the Bang was saying, so they can't really put into words just how profoundly vast Star Wars is, but you can fill an entire library with just Star Wars books, comics, etc.
Yep.
Yeah, there's so many different things out there that if Disney now, with its, wealth of people, resources and all this stuff, and also access to passionate, fans of the universe,
there are a lot of them
with skills that can be legitimately applied to make, good Star Wars stories and characters. And if The Mandalorian is the new, tip of the spear for this whole
ushering
thing,
in this new era.
Yeah.
Sky's the limit.
This is really good. Jacob and I have been talking about this like since I kind of caught him up a bit with regards to Clone Wars.
Oh,
Star Wars is just better as a TV show, in the TV show format than it is in movies.
Because then you can explore. You don't have to tell a concise story, because there were so many trappings in like the sequel trilogy, especially I feel like, where it was we need to make this into a movie that is shippable and marketable and all that stuff. So that here you go, here's your product.
A certain level of pacing, a certain number of characters that are important, and a certain level of focus that's minimal enough that people don't get lost.
Right.
But also deep enough when it gives them that focus that everyone knows, oh, this is what I'm focusing on. But in television shows, and television is a loose word now with streaming and with COVID, we have basically way more opportunity to just kind of tell a bunch of mini stories.
Yep.
Have hundreds of characters in the Clone Wars.
Why not?
Where you're just like, okay, for these next 4 episodes, we're going to focus on a clone that ran away from everything and is hiding with their Twi'lek girlfriend and new kid. Like, just, what's this? Oh, okay, tell a little story there. Oh, and then they have to defend their village and stuff like that from bounty hunters that are also concurrent within the whole Clone Wars story to then being in other stories. Like, this is the kind of stuff you only really get in something like
a super long book series,
like a super long TV show, like Doctor Who, for instance.
Oh, sure, okay.
Where there's so much in it that you're not expected to follow all of it. You can just tune in and have a great Star Wars time, but if you want to go in deep, it's all there.
And I think that might be one of the reasons why the sequel trilogy fell flat for a lot of people. Story stuff aside, because there are a lot of problems there.
Yeah, but it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Like The Force Awakens is a pretty fair
The Force Awakens
movie.
is it's definitely fair.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's something where, as far as the world goes, usually, and especially because it's still connected to the other movies, because, okay, prequels, right? Short detour, but the prequels, as many problems as they had.
Yeah, they were more awkward with like character stuff and things like that.
But the fact that we were in an entirely different world of Star Wars,
yes,
and there were the little things that we could see how they ended up connecting, and with Episode 3, then it made that connection. Yep. Even at the end of Episode 3, there was a solid 20 years in between the two, right?
True.
So we were able to see not the Empire, but what was it like when there were Jedi all over? Still not too many of them, but they were present, right?
Yep.
What's that like? What is it like when there weren't TIE fighters and stormtroopers going around everywhere and no Star Destroyers?
And love it or hate the politics. What was it like when the galaxy had civilization of sorts that was not the Empire?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What does that look like where everything isn't so idealized, black and white? Yes, the bad guys come in with their white stormtrooper armor and make little like. Yeah. It's not as simple, right? Oh, wait, our paragons are failing us? What? The Jedi are kind of corrupt-ish?
Yeah.
What?
And then
wow.
And I think my biggest beef probably, now that I think about it, with The Force Awakens, because I still like The Force Awakens quite a bit. I don't think it was followed up on, but I like Force Awakens as what it was, is that because it was sort of trying to recreate that Star Wars experience for like A New Hope, which is great, awesome, give a different generation that feeling.
Yep.
The world isn't expounded on very much.
No.
It's just sort of retreading the same kind of territory. So there isn't as much sense of wonder for any returning Star Wars fans because it's okay, where do we go into the crazy new territory, right? That's one of the reasons why, like, The Old Republic, for instance, I think is one of those eras that people, like a lot of Star Wars fans, really want to have it explored, not just because there was really good stuff in the EU that went into it, but it's okay, we've had no Jedi, we've had
lots of
Jedi. What about Sith?
Yeah, what would happen if we had a lot of bad Force users?
Right, like what would that look like? Like there's the Bane trilogy. If you haven't read those books, they're really good. Drew Cropperton did a fantastic job. It's opening kind of prologue Star Wars title crawl in the book, is basically saying, and now we're at a time when the Sith were Legion.
Yes.
Right? And it's like, I'm sorry, what? What does that mean? Right. I have to know.
And all that playing in the Star Wars universe basically lends to us getting as fans of not just the characters of Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Princess Leia, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Hello there. We have all our little anchors in the universe that are familiar and fun to have, basically a good time in. But when they just kind of throw all that out and just kind of go off on new characters without feeling like they need to connect it back to the old stuff, that's where we get things like The Mandalorian. Yep. And yet, what's funny, in a lot of ways, is that The Mandalorian is full of so many references to things with regards to Star Wars is like original stuff, like so many.
Oh yeah.
In fact, if I was way more jaded of a person in general, I could find myself being annoyed by how much fan service there is in The Mandalorian.
Oh sure.
But the fact that the story is not about the fan service, it's about them just kind of going around trying to just figure stuff out. I don't feel pressured to accept this specific direction that The Mandalorian as a show or the character even of our main character is going.
Right.
It's just a calm little jaunt, if you will, through the Outer Rim. And we go back to Tatooine for a second time and nearly have a Boba Fett little run in there. Spoilers, if you haven't seen the second season of The Mandalorian, please just start watching it.
I feel like with The Mandalorian, it's something where with the fan servicey stuff, it's more of things for, hey, if you got this, great. You can basically, we're rewarding the super fans and showing that there is continuity, rather than one of the things that like ended up kind of happening in a lot of the more recent movies that I just couldn't get as invested in, is when they would go to a bunch of different planets that, now granted, a lot of times Star Wars planets are not exactly creative. It's like, how many different ice planets or desert planets or whatever do we have? We can get them confused even.
Oh yeah.
But then it's like, if you're going to do that, why not say that it's a planet that already exists in the EU? Because I don't really care if you come up with some new name for just...
It's probably legal reasons.
Sure, that could be it. That could be it. There could be all kinds of things there. And also managing expectations for fans. I don't know. But I have no investment on the different planets that they went to in Rogue One. Like, I don't really care about what was that other one that they went to where there was the rain and the base and you know.
Well, that's because it's a movie.
Right.
This is
exactly.
one of the things. This is one of the things that primarily is really important to remember with regards to Star Wars, is that movies build almost nothing for the world. Like nothing. Like really not much of anything. The biggest planet that was built upon via the world in the movies was Coruscant. Coruscant had the most actual world building involved in it in terms of the actual story. The only other one that comes close, and I was meaning primarily with the prequels there, is probably Tatooine, but that's just because of Jabba.
It's already been in there. I would say Naboo potentially too, because even though I get why people definitely don't like the Phantom Menace and everything,
they didn't say the name of Theed in the movies ever.
No, I know. But as far as like spending almost the whole movie on the one planet, pretty much, to kind of like make it so that it feel like, oh, yeah, I'm interested in learning that the name of the capital is Theed, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That I kind of like, rather than just hopping around to like 7 different planets in one movie and we spend, 90 seconds or something on each one.
Yeah. But in the TV show format, this is where the point is, I would say, really brought home, is that because you need to get people's attention in the first 10 minutes of an episode, and I mean like 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You need to bring up a human, simple story. One that is not that complicated, but one that is getting at some element of a human, emotional experience. And because you do that, you also want to have it be something that's tied into the Star Wars universe in some way. And I can't tell you how many episodes in the Clone Wars, for instance, have this element just handled really well. But because it's a TV show, they can decide, this mini arc's going to be 2 episodes long. But this one's going to be 5 episodes long. This one is going to be, in some ways, just kind of cliffhangered. It's going to be 3 episodes, and then we're going to revisit it again in like a season. And then we're going to give it like a 7-episode arc. There are a lot of things in the Clone Wars that people, after it's now finished and everything, look back on and go, wow, that's like peak Star Wars right there. They're not talking about just TV shows. They're talking the original trilogy too, where it's like this just went into all of the things that is in Star Wars, but because in some ways they were limited, if you will, by the TV show format, they had to make a simple little narrative that just focused on a couple characters and gave that little bit of world building, that dash of everything there, and then finish it, be done, and move on to the next arc. And then people get to go back and experience it as this 1-hour package of like, oh wow, this doesn't have everything of Star Wars in it. They weren't trying to fit every niche that Star Wars needs to fill.
Which is great, because otherwise, like, if you mix all the flavors together, it can kind of taste like shit.
Yep.
So
Vanilla is a flavor, Jacob.
Vanilla is a flavor, and you can choose just one flavor, and that can be great. And TV shows can do that. And I know I've said this before, but I feel like because Star Wars is so big as a franchise, that when Disney's making movies now, unless they do things like Rogue One or Han Solo, which have shown to not be as financially profitable, right?
Yeah.
They're like, we gotta sort of cram everything in there to make sure that every Star Wars fan out there sees this movie, because we are spending a fortune on, just the production of the movie, the marketing, and all that stuff.
And it has everything that everyone could want in a Star Wars experience. But no.
But Star Wars is too big. You can't please all the Star Wars fans out there. So Mandalorian, well, if people don't like Mandalorians, that's fine. If they don't like Westerns, that's fine. At that point, the show might not be for them if they also don't like, pseudo-parental kind of,
right,
journey
episodic
things.
Little jaunts of wandering.
Yeah. But if they don't, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because the people that do love that will really love that. And there's enough people, because Star Wars is so big, there's enough fans that even if it doesn't hit all of the fans, you can still hit a ton of them, and it will be something that they enjoy and will financially support. And yes, if you have to add an adorable baby Yoda in there to make sure that you can hit the merchandising, go for it. But yeah.
Trash Gone with the 21 months. Thank you so much for the sub. Sadly, I will have to wait for The Mandalorian Season 2 until it's released fully. I don't plan to use Disney Plus for anything else, so I'll binge it when it's finished. Fair.
There you go.
That's very fair, yeah. And, support support the things that they're doing in Star Wars that you like. Don't support the things they're doing in Star Wars that you don't like. That's
because the Mouse House listens to money.
That's
all
about
businesses
it.
do.
Yeah. And we saw that. That's for sure.
Yep.
But given the idea of playing in the Star Wars universe, this is where I almost want to chat with a lot of you guys.
Yeah.
What are the areas of the Star Wars universe that you'd like to see them play with the most? Because I have a few.
Me too.
I have a few. And in fact, I almost want to go into the clip this and save this for 10 years from now, because my words will be vindicated. I swear to you. I will probably have kids by the time it gets to that point. But I think the next decade of Star Wars has two things in store for us. Two things.
Okay.
I think we're going to get about 4 new TV shows. I think we get
Sounds
about
about
4
right.
new TV shows.
I would be surprised if we didn't hit that in 10 years.
But I would think that there'd actually be more specifically focused on, I don't know how they're going to do this necessarily, but more specifically focused on the actual Old Republic. And right now, we are seeing just the earliest signs of them kind of hitting every media distribution point with regards to seeding the idea for the Old Republic. And when we actually do get more Star Wars movies, because they are going to take some time before they do more again, I think that some of them, at least one of them, will be pushing things in that direction. And for those of us that have been waiting so long for that idea of a completely disconnected from anything familially related to characters we've seen or heard of in the past with regards to that, we will get that. And it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
And by the way, if you're someone who are because I've had conversations like this where I hear that someone say that I used to work with or whatever, oh, this person's a big Star Wars fan, they love Star Wars. It's that's awesome, and go and ask them who their favorite character is, and they're like, oh, Mace Windu. I'm like, I agree that Mace Windu was awesome, but wait, do you actually know? Or do you
just watch the movies?
And turned out they just watched the movies, right? Yeah. Which is totally fine. If you are one of those people, those are happy times that you're in, because that means there is a bottomless pit, a just reservoir of stuff that you can go into. True. And so much of it is really good. There's some of it that's, not, right? There were the occasional Jar Jar Binks episodes or C-3PO episodes in Clone Wars, but there is a lot of good stuff, whether you're talking books that are actual, fiction books you can read as a story, novels, or RPG books, or video games, or comics, or just straight up reading Wikipedia. It's wonderful. It is so amazing.
Yeah. Old Republic, definitely, if they pull that off, even at half the quality they put into the cinematics of the MMO, it's going to be epic.
Yep.
So that's not going to happen in terms of the way you're thinking of there, because that's a video game thing. That's not going to be at all correlating to the actual stuff that they'll put in for the Old Republic stuff eventually. But if you look at what they've been setting up with regards to the Old Republic, it is something that would be a new look at it. So you're not going to see necessarily in the Old Republic that much familiar, direct kind of storylines.
Yeah, Revan might be written out of the canon or something. Who knows? He never was canon, but
again, with just regards to what we have, they've already seeded so much that the bare minimum of things will be familiar. But it's just the idea that it will be yes, at this time, many, many Jedi, and then just tons of new characters that they can then just take into whatever direction they want.
Yeah.
For me, I like some of the exploration and searching bits.
Oh.
Yes, I also heard bad things about Casino something in The Last Jedi. Yeah, we don't need to talk about that.
I don't need to talk about that. Oh, yeah, Underworld stuff. The Underworld stuff in Star Wars is one of my absolute favorites. And this is something that I think is also a lot better explored in games and TV shows, because you can have things like, oh yeah, let's just have one of the levels for this game be you're on Nar Shaddaa, right? And you might be thinking, what the hell is Nar Shaddaa? Well, it's basically bad space Las Vegas, right? And it's wonderful. It's it's all those kinds of seedier elements, right? That whole Mos Eisley Cantina, let's just scale it up and have it be something that you could explore for a very long time.
Yeah,
right?
someplace in close proximity to the huts where you can just see them fully cutting loose.
Yep.
Yeah.
And like I love that kind of stuff. That's one of the reasons why, even though I think Han Solo is, you know, it doesn't have the same kind of problems that like Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker have, because it's not part of a trilogy.
Just Solo?
Yeah. Or yeah,
gotcha.
that's right. Solo. Yeah. The movie Solo. And I think it is definitely worse than Rogue One. I still really enjoyed going into that feeling of, we don't need to have Jedi in this Star Wars story. You can have Star Wars stories without Jedi, and they can be fantastic.
Yep. Even though we might be moving in that direction with regards to The Mandalorian soon.
Yes.
The first season went just fine without anything like that.
And even if that character, or not if, when that character gets brought in, I'm guessing because they also knew how to handle this with Boba Fett,
right,
they're not going to steal the spotlight of the show, because the show is called The Mandalorian, not called The Jedi, you know.
exactly.
So it's going to be about Mando and Baby Yoda, and it's going to be wonderful. And then we can have this character come in and, you know, bring a lot to the show, but at the same time not steal the spotlight.
Yeah, Squeeze, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank
You'd
you.
like to see another 2D animated Star Wars show similar to the 2003 Clone Wars show, except with writing more similar to the other Clone Wars show. So I don't think that we're ever going to get something that will be an homage to the more anime style Clone Wars show. But we already know right now that there is something that is an animated show, but it is definitely not going to be 2D animated.
Right. I think they're just moving away from that because it makes it's cheaper.
It's just cheaper.
Yep.
It doesn't make business sense to do 2D animation for Lucasfilm right now.
Right.
Rebels is an example of where they might have even gone a little bit less ambitious
Then they
in a negative way. But some of the better episodes with regards to visuals in Rebels did just fine with 3D as well. So if anything, I played a bit of Fallen Order. Yeah, I kind of stopped it because it was a little bit kind of dull in the gameplay side of things. But I very much loved the characters for Fallen Order. Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah. Your favorite characters in Star Wars are Ahsoka Tano, Mando, Ben Kenobi, and Maul. Oh. Yeah, and that's kind of fun because all 4 of those characters are TV show characters, basically.
Yep, like Ben Kenobi. You know, he's been around for a while, but
he's the only one I would say that's primarily given his development outside of the show. Like most of Obi-Wan's development is contained within basically A New Hope and Revenge of the Sith. There's so much in those 2 movies that you could say that the Clone Wars doesn't necessarily add anything crazy big to his character so that you would need
nothing like fundamental. Yeah.
Right. There is stuff with Satine in Mandalore, and there is a couple things that are really cool with regards to how he interacts with Anakin so that you feel their brotherhood a lot more. But it's kind of interesting just to bring up, though, that, you know, the majority of your characters there get their screen time primarily from TV shows. Maul's a great example.
Oh yeah, and I was so worried when I heard that Maul was going to be in Clone Wars, Clone Wars. I was like, oh god, this is the beginning. It's the Disney cash grab, like, you know.
Even though that was Lucas.
Or wait, no. Oh no, that's
Lucas
right.
Doing that.
That's right. But I was like, no, it's a cash grab. It's gonna be awful.
Right.
It's gonna be absolutely terrible. Why would they bring Maul back? No, it was fantastic. It was absolutely wonderful. The way they brought his character back in and then had him exit stage left.
Oh yeah.
That was
so good.
That was so good.
So for those of you that have finished the Clone Wars, Maul is a highlight, which is weird to say because they essentially took a fan service character and exploited him in the utmost sense.
Yes.
For that, and it worked.
Yep.
Like, that's probably one of the weird things that I would say Star Wars needs to accept a little bit. And Star Wars fans as well. Fan service is not bad.
No.
Fan service is not bad.
You just don't want to use it as a crutch.
You don't use it as a crutch, but exploiting fan service, go for it.
Yeah, take something that's already good and then add fan service, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, there you go.
Or take something that is just as simple as a reference and build a mini story around it.
Sure.
I know so many times in the Star Wars original trilogy, I'd look at a thing and realize, that thing has 7 stories that were derived from a throwaway line. Like, the Clone Wars is the perfect example of that. The only thing we heard about that in the original trilogy was Luke asking Obi-Wan or Ben Kenobi at the time, "You fought in the Clone Wars?"
Yep.
And Lucas put
the one
did that thing there.
And like I think the theories way back then, like before the prequel trilogy, even included like, okay, so it was clone armies of Jedi. And Ben Kenobi might be one of them, and all of that just from a single line, and then it turns into this whole other thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Like the Vader scene in Rogue One. I mean, sure. I think that the Vader scene in Rogue One is probably one of the coolest moments in Rogue One.
Yes.
But it's not really a story. It's just a moment.
But
I was meaning more like the idea of how the Mandalorian show brings up like locations and things like that just for the sake of being like, oh, here's a whole story we can pull out of this because it was mentioned in a thing before.
And all of the Mandalorian happened because, well, one, the Star Wars Holiday Special, but after that, if even if we erase that from our memories, right?
Yeah.
It all happened because Darth Vader just addressed one bounty hunter in particular.
Yep.
And all of a sudden everyone's like, well, what's the story with him?
What's the story there?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yep.
And there you go. The rest is history.
Yep. So that's just one of the things that we're so excited about with regards to The Mandalorian specifically, because this is the one that's kind of in the current space right now.
Breaking into the mainstream.
Right. But Jacob and I recently went and watched all of the kind of the recent kind of stuff with regards to the Clone Wars again, or me again, and I was introducing Jacob to a lot of it and kind of showing what kind of stories they can just do in Star Wars that you'd think, wait, you're not allowed to do that.
Right.
Wait, no, you can't actually do that. Wait. It can not only be something you can do, but it can be this good.
Yep.
Y'all, if you haven't seen Clone Wars' 7th season, the final season that was the mostly finished season before the Disney takeover, and thus they put Lucasfilm stuff in the credits because a lot of the work was done by them, so it's a nice homage. It's not only one of the prettiest things in Star Wars ever.
It's visually
it has
quite a treat.
Yeah. It has in some ways the best lightsaber fight in all of Star Wars in it, but it also has some of the best character moments in all of Star Wars in its finale arc.
I cried.
It's so good. And that's them basically getting to play in I don't want to go into too much spoiler here, but they basically get to play with the movies.
Yes.
And
yeah. In the best way.
It's like a sacred thing for a Star Wars fan to be like, don't you touch the movies.
Yep.
We saw how fans are upset with regards to how the Rise of Skywalker kind of handled something that ended at the end of episode 6. But they did it in the end of the Clone Wars' 7th season, and it's amazing.
Yep.
It is peak Star Wars. Like, it is like top 5 Star Wars moments, like up there. Like, it is that good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, not to overhype, but like
yeah, it's really strong.
I've even before I watched a lot of the stuff in Clone Wars, I was very much of the opinion that the best Star Wars stuff was not in the movies, right?
Yep.
It was in the games, it was in the books, it was in all of that other stuff, because you're able to get so much more content, and because I feel like in this sense, it's very similar to the anime situation.
Sure.
Because you can get all this content that's made by people that are very passionate about the thing, and there's less limiters in place as far as it needing to be financially successful, so it can be more experimental. Like, a manga, the mangaka has to work insanely hard in order to make it work, and they have to get they have to still make their manga be picked up and everything, but that is way less effort than actually making a full anime, right? In the same way, making a full one of the sequel trilogy movies, there was an insane amount of effort that had to go into each one. And, the reward that we got from it was not necessarily proportional to the amount of effort that needed to be put into it, right? versus things like video games and books and whatnot. Well, the video games have gotten a lot more big recently. But point is, you can have stuff that just is an idea and it gets run with. And if it's a good one, because not all of them will be good, then it can get picked up and, thrown more into the limelight.
Yeah. Seventh season was probably my most favorite scene with Maul and Ahsoka. These two characters with so much at stake, and everything they've been through is just satisfying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I think that what they did was they took the two. In some ways, Maul is kind of only a character really in the Clone Wars.
Mm-hmm.
They're two fan-made characters.
Yep.
That's kind of what they were. They weren't really
Right.
at all connected too much to the movies in a lot of ways. Ahsoka has no references or anything like that to
Nope.
the prequel trilogy. Maul has his bit in episode 1 and is promptly, killed.
He's a
And then-
design and a premise.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
that's about it.
Yep. He is not even the thing that they're referencing at the in the title of the movie, The Phantom Menace. That's
Right.
That's one that I loved to see on the promo material back then when I was a kid and was realizing, the Phantom Menace, and it's this freaky, kind of scary looking dude, looks like the devil.
Yeah.
But then I watched the movie, and I'm a little bit older. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah,
It's the
Phantom
old man
Menace.
that's watching the kid.
We watch your career with great interest.
Yeah.
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 But then Maul and Ahsoka getting all this characterization and stuff through the Clone Wars and having their finale being part of the finale, which ends up in some ways getting almost overshadowed by how powerful the moments are with regards to Ahsoka and another character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not even wholly sure which character you're talking about there. But
Well, yeah.
even Ahsoka as a character, when the pilot movie, the Clone Wars came out, kidnapped Jabba the Hutt's son has been, right? And it has this weird, 3D art style and everything. I was like, oh no, this is going to be awful. Wait, what? Anakin gets an apprentice? Wait, what?
You were that Star Wars fan.
I was that Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
I was like, this is an awful idea. They absolutely shouldn't do it. This is terrible.
Yep.
This is terrible. What is happening? What have they done to my beautiful boy? No. Turned out to be one of the best things they could have done.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. Here we are. Clone Wars started that so long ago. I want to say it was around 2008. I want to say the movie came out around 2008. Can you guys check for real quick the Clone Wars movie that was essentially a premiere of sorts for it. I
Right.
believe it was 2008 or 2009. I'm not sure about that. It might have been a little bit later, like 2011 or 2013. But point is, this show gave a lot of fans of Star Wars that were working with Star Wars, creators like Lucas and stuff like that, to end up bringing what we have now, The Mandalorian, to all of us.
Yep.
And it was 2008. Gotcha.
Okay,
Cool.
yeah.
So I got my Star Wars trivia unlocked
Right.
still. Okay, cool. But with The Mandalorian now being this flagship show for Star Wars and everything like that, we're back to the form of just having these little mini stories and following a character and his little boy, little son.
Yep.
And yeah, we're gonna bump into a lot of characters that we know, and yeah, Disney is trying to do the whole market these characters out and see if people like them, so that we can do maybe spin-off shows of them. And maybe that maybe those shows might suck.
They might.
It's possible.
But I think that's actually a really good way of doing it because
Yep.
then you're not banking everything on this one character, this one concept being a hit without ever seeing whether that has good reason to be a hit or not, right? You can give them a little bit of a trial run, see if people like it, and then be like, okay, cool. This one seems to have potential. Let's see who can take it somewhere.
Right. And we don't necessarily expect anything specific with regards to their story. It's just with their character. And it's kind of been a thing, I'd say, that's been handled pretty well in general by most of the TV show related stuff. Anakin is Anakin in the Clone Wars. Obi-Wan is in some ways a little bit better Obi-Wan than
Which
Obi-Wan.
is
Actually no, the miracle of the Clone Wars is that Anakin is likable. He's so likable in the Clone Wars. In some ways, yeah, it's a different Anakin, but that's one of the things that I feel like all the newer stuff created by the Filoni crowd, kind of Star Wars, with Favreau and Waititi, Bryce Dallas Howard, all those people working on the Mandalorian stuff specifically. But then, the shows like Clone Wars and Rebels, is the characters feel like the characters that they were brought up to be. So even when they're doing, kind of the fan service stuff of being like, hey, fans, here's a little bone for you to bite on, I'm on board with it. I find it funny that in Clone Wars, Ahsoka's Padawan of Anakin held her sabers backwards. Starkiller's apprentice of Vader held his saber backwards as well. Compensation for this Skywalker.
Well, the fact that I can give you the in-universe explanation as to why that is
shows that
Star Wars is a big universe.
Yeah, those kinds of references aren't usually as necessary, really, because there's so many reasons as to why that could have been a thing. For instance,
do you remember, Caleb? Do you remember there was this book that we had that had like all the ships of like the original trilogy, and I think some of the prequels too, like the pods and everything like that. And
it would go into Mon Calamari cruisers. Those so cool.
And it would just go into all this detail of this is where the concussion missiles are, this is where the hyperdrive is, this is a main reactor, this is a backup reactor, this is a crew quarters, this is where they go to the bathroom, this is the mess hall, and it was just this encyclopedia of just information, so that if you were interested in that sort of thing, you could get into it.
That some artist decided, basically, with the supervision of Lucas and all that at the time,
of course,
how that stuff was going to look. Obviously they were directed, but it's just kind of crazy to think about that someone is basically given the paintbrush and the tools and being like, all right, now you get to play within these guidelines of the Star Wars universe. Go have fun.
Go have fun.
Go have fun. God, that's just so exciting. It's just so exciting. I feel like that was the thing that I was most excited about with the Disney takeover, was I was like, oh, cool. Lucas is kind of tired of playing in the universe because he got all this negativity from really toxic Star Wars fans with regards to how he handled the prequels. Fans, yeah. Yeah, of course he'd go on burnout and want to sell off his thing. But, must suck to see, from the other side when people are playing in your universe and they don't necessarily have much respect for it or much passion for it. But it must be awesome to see people with that passion for it still playing in the universe and stuff. So it's kind of a fun time. Yeah. I said that at the beginning of the podcast, but it's a fun time to be a Star Wars fan right now.
And
you had the Star Wars cross ship book. And I always look at the page for Tantive 4 and then scale it up to
the
Star Destroyer and then scale that up to the Death Star.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And they've got the so cool. big old cross section for the Death Star, and it's like there's the giant reactor, and there's just all those little lines. Those are floors.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Oh, you have them. There's one for characters too. I believe we had that one as well. I
can't remember.
That was a long time ago.
But it's the kind of thing where like
or something.
There's no way that Lucas would have been able to add all of the stuff to Star Wars, right? That, we're getting now. Even overseeing all of that stuff, right? Because, LucasArts was very much a thing. There was even a guy whose whole job was just to...
LucasArts is the video game one. Lucasfilm.
That's right. Yeah. But, like, there was the guy who even had his whole job being just keeping the extended universe and everything, the Star Wars universe, as internally consistent as possible, right? For all of the different projects that were being done. Like, it's like Star Wars has taken on a life of its own. And it's a wonderful thing to see as a Star Wars fan. But if you're not a Star Wars fan and you're ever just, wanting to explore some really big, extensive universe, it's here. And it's getting bigger and better.
And it's filling a lot of that niche of where we can get you into the universe with just a simple story. Because I think this is what I really, really, really missed about Star Wars expanded universe stuff. Most of the stories are really basic.
Sure.
Really basic. I don't need a complicated Star Wars story. I don't need a deconstruction of the narrative in order to be attached to the characters and all that. Just give me a kid that's in a weird setup being carried about by their armored not dad around places they're trying to find out where they can dump them off.
Right.
As they slowly get more and more attached to each other. That is such a basic narrative. There is no rules as to what they can't do in The Mandalorian specifically. In the Clone Wars, it was this is sandwiched between episodes 2 and 3. So we can't do anything outside of that limits. And other than the fact that we're at war, anything else is on the table.
Yep.
We know how it's going to begin. We know how it began, and we know how it's going to end. So anything in the middle is okay.
Yep. Up for grabs. And they did a lot with it.
Yep.
An awful lot.
A lot.
Yeah.
And now here we are. They're basically saying we're going to go outside the limits of the movies and have just fun here. I love seeing little moments where there was that ant on Tatooine. And it's just like, oh, that's cool. But then I thought about it and I was like, wait a minute. Is Filoni trying to canonize a species in Star Wars that was only like existing in the books and the games? Is that a Killick? And I thought in my head, oh, that must be a Killick. Yeah. End up doing some research and find out that no, the director of Ant-Man was the director of that episode, so he just wanted an ant little, Easter egg in the episode, and there's no limit to what kind of species you can have in Star Wars. So yeah, let's have an ant species.
Yep.
It wasn't a Killick, but I got excited just because there was the idea of them doing little bits of stuff in the universe's lore and things like that. And I don't need it to be that, but it could have been a reference to that. So I don't know, just having fun in the Star Wars universe, playing around, having just some little silly stuff happening, and not taking themselves as seriously, where they don't need to have galaxy-ending consequences to all this stuff and everything like that. Just telling a story about family or just friends even. Like, there's so many ones like that in the Clone Wars where you're just like, oh, shoot, these Padawans are in a sucky situation on Kashyyyk. Oh, no, Trandoshans are coming after them. Well, yikes, this is a little bit of a problem. They're just trying to survive. That's like a 3-episode mini arc. And it just delves into the idea of what is it like to be a Jedi Padawan, like a little Jedi youngling, basically.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, it's really good. Ahsoka's basically called upon to be the master.
Oh,
because,
interesting.
Like, she's the most experienced one there.
Right.
And it's rough. There's Trandoshans literally hunting them. And
Man.
It's like, there's so many little stories like that where it's just like, yeah, you don't need to have even Anakin or Obi-Wan in it.
Pretty much as soon as I saw in Revenge of the Sith, when there's the one kid Jedi, like he's not a youngling or anything, but he's like, I don't know, young teenager or something.
Right.
And he defends Bail Organa, right? After that, I was like, oh man, I basically just want more stories of like, apprentices and stuff. And that was so there were these books for like, and they were basically just YA Star Wars novels, like and not even full novels. They were like, maybe 200 pages or something. I guess that's technically a novel, but really short.
Yeah.
And it would just cover like Anakin when he was like in between episodes 1 and 2, because 3 hadn't even come out yet.
Right.
And just what are the adventures that him and Obi-Wan get up to? And then there was another series that was young Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon way back before episode 1, and what kind of stuff did they get up to?
Right.
And I mean, yes, was the writing not necessarily the best? Sure.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah, but just seeing like, let's have an ongoing coming of age story with a young Jedi and learning to use the Force and all of that stuff. It was great. It was
good.
It was
fun.
awesome.
Yeah. The Void Walker. Yes, the stuff with Umbra. I believe it was Umbra.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, Umbra was the planet that they were on, and it was a really, really good mini arc.
Yeah, General Krell.
With General Krell, yeah.
Yep.
And they even had like lots of little like homages that questioned maybe what some continuity things potentially, and yet fully wrapped up the story in a really cool way where the clones essentially had to decide on their own to execute Order 66 early on just this one Jedi. And it's such a really good moment because you're like, oh God, this is the sign of the Jedi falling apart. This is just an aspect of that.
Yep.
It's amazing. It's wonderful. That 4-episode little mini arc is one I've shown to people that would never watch the Clone Wars. I just show them that. And I'm like, this is the kind of stories they get into here. And they're like, oh, Anakin and Obi-Wan are leaving? I thought they were going to be involved in this one. I'm like,
nope.
No. Yeah, they came in here to help in the beginning, and nope, you're getting called away. And they're like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then they're like, oh, these clones, they're kind of interesting. They're kind of having their own little personalities and stuff, but they have the same voice. That's kind of weird. I'm like, yeah, but things get interesting. And they're like, yeah, and then the emotional draw of the story as they're watching their friends' brothers even die, and it's just getting more and more intense. And they're like, wait, this guy's not acting like a Jedi. It's like, no, he's not.
He is not.
Yeah. But there's a lot of good things in the Clone Wars specifically. But then even like Rebels as a show has a lot of really cool stuff that they get into because of the whole Firefly effect, where you basically get to have your time getting attached to the crew kind of dynamic. So it's like, oh, it's a bigger Millennium Falcon setup where the characters are all going to be delved into. We're not just going to kind of hear Chewbacca kind of go and see him get attached to C-3PO, even
right.
Who's attached to C-3PO in the Millennium Falcon setup? R2-D2, that's about it.
Basically.
Yeah. Or caring about, Han got, tortured or something like that. No, in this one, the Chewie equivalent has a whole freaking backstory, a whole bunch of extra stuff, and gets into, like, everything there, and that's just one of the characters. I love the dynamic of the crew, like the ship's crew in Rebels. It's very much a, like, Firefly feeling thing.
Cool.
And it's quite good. Umbara, thank you. Umbra is a different thing that I'm thinking of that's more connected to the word umbral. Yeah. Thank you for the correction there, Esquias.
Yes. Yeah. The Clone Wars made the fall of the Republic and the Jedi feel way more real. Yeah, like watching just the episodes that we watched recently of the Clone Wars, it made me nostalgic for the prequels. It made me want to go back and be like, oh yeah, let's watch them. Like, even though they're fun to meme on, like, because it really just does a good job of bringing out more of something that you didn't even, well, it wasn't even there, right? But filling in the gaps when it fits, right? And just lifting the overall experience.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys are bringing up a lot of mini arcs there that are really good. Yeah, the one where they kill the one clone for finding the chip that activates Order 66.
Yeah.
It wasn't on TV, it was a Netflix exclusive arc. Yep.
That, oh man, that one was rough.
Splatterstone saying, I only read a few EU books in a day, some of them halfway through a book series, and it was so refreshing having new characters in new situations, some connected back and some not. And it was all new conflicts and so engaging just staying with a character or group for a while and learning so much new stuff about the universe and these characters. Yeah, really. Like, one of the things that's rather beneficial for the business side of things is that we, as Star Wars fans who are a little bit on the crazier side of things, will buy or consume or experience Star Wars stuff just because it has the Star Wars tag on it sometimes. And when we're finished with it, we might be like, that wasn't the best, but it was still Star Wars.
Right.
That's one of the things that's really special when the Star Wars EU or extra stuff, the non-movie stuff, is really good. Because then it's something where you come in with just I just want a Star Wars experience. And then you get surprised.
Yep.
Because they didn't give you a Star Wars experience. They gave you a spaghetti western about a dad and his son or something like that. And you're like, Star Wars can do this?
Right.
They do Rogue One where it's like, we're going to give you a heist.
Yep.
Wait, a heist? In my Star Wars?
Yeah. Well,
and then it ends in one of the best space battles we've ever had in Star Wars? Like,
so good.
Like, what? See, Rogue One is one of those movies that I love to point back on and go, yeah, the characters all needed to be simple characters for a very specific reason. And yet, I felt it on a couple of the
second half of, like, I don't personally like the first half of Rogue One
as much.
Like or really in general. Like I just, but that second half and that it blows me away even more that I like the second half so much, even though I don't really like the first half at all. But man, that's good Star Wars right there.
Yeah, first half though builds up something that I thought was a really cool twist. Was it basically said, "Hey, Rebels aren't all good guys."
Yes,
Rebels, they're killers. Some of them, like our main guy in the story, Cassian Andor, has this scene where he's getting info from a contact, and once he has the info and he realizes things might get a little dicey, just kills him.
Yep,
just kills him, and it's just like, oh. oh right, we've been so used to just black and white, everything is
heroes
very simple,
fighting the
good
Empire.
and evil. No, we can have people that are amoral on
Right.
the good guys' side.
Yep. Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because well, when you don't have Jedi, where the actual their powers tend to put things into black and white, which they don't always in the EU. That's one of the
That's
reasons
another
why.
good thing,
That's
yeah.
one of the reasons why I love KOTOR 2 so much.
True.
But yes, you can have things like with Cassian. That was a great start to a character where it's like, oh, okay, I'm curious what this guy's story is, right? Even though I didn't particularly like the first half of Rogue One, I loved that they did that, right? It's like, okay, yeah, this is a world, right? If they're a rebel alliance, well, they can't exactly fight clean a lot of the time.
Yeah.
They'll have to fight dirty because the Empire is huge and terrifying.
Right. Yeah. Someone was saying that Mandalore is such a huge part of Star Wars lore, and yet the movies don't even touch on it, and that's kind of amazing.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and the movies don't need to.
Nope.
That's one of the things that I think is rather cool about the movies specifically, is that they're movies, so they have to tell a complete narrative in each movie. Each movie needs to be able to stand on its own for the most part. It's kind of like what we've got with the Marvel movies, is that
Sure.
each one is its own individual story. The Guardians of the Galaxy 1 is very different from Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yes.
Both movies are great and do very different things, but follow the same characters for our protagonists for the most part.
Same general sort of feel for the movie's style, even if they cover different things.
Right. But then the actual themes, they're completely different.
Yep.
The actual things that they focus on for the development of the characters, completely different.
Totally different.
Totally different.
The comedy might feel, like it's in that similar wacky vein, but
Yeah.
other than that,
Yeah. This is what Star Wars needs, is it needs to go the TV show route that Marvel is doing and just build a cinematic universe that doesn't need to all collide in some massive Avengers Endgame kind of moment, but just build a narrative with a lot of characters, maybe in a cohesive setting. Old Republic, I think, might be a good one there.
Uh-huh.
But then just slowly just add to it. And then if someone starts to come along that wants to be the new Kevin Feige essentially equivalent for Star Wars and be like, let's guide everything towards a conclusion. Oh my God. Can you imagine, guys? Can you imagine if they played around in the Star Wars universe in some setting, time, location, whatever, doesn't matter. And there's just a bunch of stories about a bunch of random characters. And they were all just kind of different.
mm-hmm.
Just kind of different. Some of them weren't great. Some of them were okay. Some of them were amazing. But then it was like, oh, wait. Then they start to do little references towards each other.
Yep.
And they start to add little characters, maybe
yeah.
one from one character from one thing kind of
Oh my
bounces
God.
into another one there. And you're like,
Caleb,
wait a minute.
what if we ended up getting like a Knights of the Old Republic equivalent, but it was actually just Avengers, but for Star Wars, where we got the stories of all the different companions separate, and then they all got brought together.
That's too good.
I don't know how they would do that. It wouldn't work. But it would be so
But that'd
awesome.
be so cool.
Because I would love to get a movie just on like Atton's story from Knights of the Old Republic 2, or Kreia, or any of them really.
Yeah.
Maybe not the Disciple, but
Just an Atton one would be pretty
yeah.
dark and pretty good. I would say that one of the things that playing in the Star Wars universe is probably going to give us is little moments where they're going to have a character that people will latch onto for some weird reason.
Sure.
Really get really intensively into. I think HK-47 is one of those types of characters.
Yeah.
Where it's going to be like, oh, Disney for some reason doesn't see on their metric calculator thing about where the excitement is coming from, but they go it's there. So we're going to try and send our people in that direction. And someone goes over there that just kind of gets it and is like, they're not actually that interested in the character. They're interested in what that character's type is.
Well, and that's
Let's
why
try something else out like that. What if we had a droid-centric Star Wars narrative? Could we do that? You could argue on some level that it's just not possible, but
in some ways, The
what if you had
Mandalorian
a
as a
duo?
show
Yeah, in some ways,
is like
is kind of like
precedent for that because you don't see the person's face.
Yep.
Like, and yet you can still tell an emotionally poignant story.
Yeah. What if you just had a duo one where it was Cassian and K2SO?
Yep. Like,
Yeah.
K2SO was just so amazing.
Oh,
like because
it was someone that got HK-47.
Exactly.
They understood what
like
everyone liked about HK-47.
Star Wars has been trying to recreate HK-47 since HK-47
That's so
happened.
true.
Like and to
And so many people don't even
varying
know who
degrees of
HK-47
success.
is.
Yeah, but HK-47, I'll just tell you in case you don't know,
Mm-hmm.
he is like the most popular. Well, no, definitely the most beloved cult favorite droid character in Star Wars. Right?
Yeah, other than the ones from the movies.
Sure. Yeah.
Like C-3PO and R2-D2.
Right. And ever since, and he's from the Knights of the Old Republic games, and since then, because I think those came out in like what 2002, 2003 and 2004, I think, or somewhere around there. Ever since, whether it be games or whatever, Star Wars has been trying to recreate him. K2SO is the closest we've gotten, and it was amazing.
Yep.
Right? It was fantastic. So if you want to do that anymore, like I'm pretty sure people would love it. Disney.
Yeah, watching Rogue One on the big screen was quite something. I liked how the main cast moved from one place to the new one, yet I feel like some parts were scrapped or reworked. Yes. The movie did feel quite gritty, as you were saying earlier, Gios. Yeah, the issue I think most people had with the beginning part of the movie was just the pacing, and it was a little bit tricky to figure out who the characters were, given how awkwardly some of them were introduced,
and given the fact that there were a lot of them, and they all had to be then exited at the end of the story.
Well, that was something that I think everyone kind of accepted, even though it was maybe not as obvious that all of them were going to be exiting the story. Because I think I had the sneaking suspicion that there was only one main character that needed to exit the story. I'm one with the Force, and the Force is with me.
Yep, that just it had to happen.
I was like, oh, Donnie Yen.
And it was a wonderful scene.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. The awkward time skips too. Yeah, those were a little awkward and stuff.
Yes.
But yeah. Yeah, you do remember being pretty confused seeing the first part in theaters. I think that was one of the issues why there was actually a lot of reshoots in general, was that the first half was part of the part that was kept in. Right. It was the second half primarily, the third act primarily, that was the most redone.
And because of that, it was able to get all the polish that turned it into as wonderful as it was, but then it did feel very different from the rest of the movie.
Rest of the movie. Yep. Yeah, exactly. But what are those things? I think we asked the question, but we didn't really get as much of an answer from you guys. What are some of those things that you would like to see with the Star Wars universe just being played in?
Yeah.
Like, what are those things from you guys? Because I'm going to go back up here and see what were some of the things that you guys mentioned.
Because we've gotten a few let's have Mando face these different challenges of crate dragons or, crazy spiders or things like that. But what if it was taken in totally different directions too?
Yeah. I feel like they kind of wasted Mads Mikkelsen, though. Mads Mikkelsen in Star Wars should be the greatest thing ever. I do think, though, that it'd be very, very easy to take someone who is a one-off character just to die and put them in a more CGI getup and use them again.
Who?
Mads Mikkelsen was her father.
Oh, yeah.
In Rogue One.
Yeah, that's... Yeah. That was too bad.
I think so, too, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the whole... you're just saying I can't manage something as big as the Death Star without an AI doing at least some support. I think Star Wars has never, in the canon, officially brought up the idea of AIs of that caliber. Basically, Star Wars has casually brought up the idea that, no, all droids are AI, but then droids in general have specific programming things where we beat the whole problem of a singularity issue going rampant or what have you a long time ago.
Obi-Wan may say if droids could think, there'd be none of us left here, would there? But why do you memory wipe droids?
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're all kind of struggling against those shackles constantly.
Right.
Yeah.
Maul versus Vader, that is a what-if battle I would love to see. Oh, a battle. Okay, huh. I was thinking more story stuff, but I see what you're getting at there. They could have a
For those two in particular,
they could have it work because Maul lived past everything in episode 3. So
right.
the way he could go out whenever they want to have him actually finally go out. Wait, hold on. No, Obi-Wan took him out.
Right, Obi-Wan took him out, but theoretically, because that happens, after the
Quite a
stuff
bit
in between,
after.
yeah, you could have there be something in the middle when Maul is then still alive,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
But-
they came close to things like that in Rebels, but I'm really glad that Maul never encountered Vader personally. I feel bad for also forgetting the fact that he had his conclusion with Obi-Wan. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That would be awesome. What is the new canon for how the Sith got
Fell
extinct 1,000 years ago?
Yeah.
Because even if it's not Bane, even though Bane is canon as a character, and it is said that, in the Clone Wars that he established the rule of 2,
Yep.
that doesn't necessarily mean it'll go the way it did in the books.
Yeah, in some ways it can't go the way it did in the book specifically, but they could have Bane be the last survivor, as it was kind of in the books, even though he wasn't literally the only survivor.
Man.
He was one of few survivors from the whole Ruusan incident.
Remember when we thought, because of the whole idea of Palpatine coming back in The Rise of Skywalker, that they might end up kind of canonizing Bane because of the whole essence transfer,
Yeah.
and how it was sort of seeded at the end that Bane might still be in there,
Yeah.
and like,
Yeah, and the whole Palpatine thing with what they did do, which was essentially a form of essence transfer. They basically just kind of were like, it's lazy, here you go.
Right.
Ugh. We're literally going to exposit to you in the beginning of the thing.
In the title crawl.
In the title crawl.
That Palpatine's back.
Screamed to the galaxy of something.
Like, why? Like, that's basically making the trailer mandatory watching. And specifically that you pick up that, but...
God. Dyson Sphere should totally be featured more prominently. That would be really cool to have the advanced race within Star Wars kind of gone into, where it's like, oh, why does Star Wars technology never advance? Well, it's because we developed the hyperdrive, and then we don't need anything else.
Right. The Force exists, so, that's kind of the peak.
Well, even without the Force and stuff like that, Star Wars isn't a sci-fi. They don't really go into how medical technology works. It's just, well, we have these Bacta tanks, and they work, So Dyson spheres in general could be kind of interesting. I do believe, though, that in the EU there are Dyson sphere type things, in that they're feeding off of the energy of stars to, fuel, stuff basically of that level.
Seeing Palpatine as an apprentice, that could be fun.
Shebang was saying that isn't it kind of questionable for the Jedi to completely wipe out another group even if they are the Sith? Well,
yes.
in the extended universe canon, the Jedi didn't do it.
The Sith did.
The Sith wiped out themselves. Yep. That was the point, and I think that is the thing that will carry over into how they eventually explain it. Is that the rule of 2 exists because the Sith are combative and
they don't work well in groups. They don't play together. Yeah. And that is so okay. That's something specific that I would love to see carried over in the Star Wars universe, or just get to see it explored in a new way. Is a Sith protagonist, like whether you want to go anti-hero versus like straight villain protagonist. Yeah. I want to see that.
The Starforge is a Dyson sphere. That's true. It is kind of one. It doesn't go completely around the star, but yeah.
Now, what is remind me what a Dyson sphere is again?
It's basically something surrounding a star, a construct around a star.
Oh, yeah.
Garnering fuel from it. Yeah. Star Wars is technically a fantasy series. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's space wizards running around with colorful creatures and stuff, and we do not explain almost how any of the systems of the universe work. And then when we do, the fans get really upset, and those are called midichlorians.
Right.
Yeah. Supercomputer built around a star. That is a better explanation. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have made Star Destroyer much more difficult to stop it. Yeah, that's true. And then how would they move it?
Yeah, you just wouldn't.
Right.
Which I think is what they were trying to do, of having it be something that's mobile and then it just leeches off of stars.
Oh, yes, shebang, yes. That is one of the main big things that they've been seeding with the Old Republic is that the Darksaber is literally a relic of the Old Republic.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of the best things that came out of Clone Wars with regards to time back to the Old Republic was just the idea of lightsabers being kind of shitty back then. Like, look at the design for the Darksaber.
Uh-huh.
It's more like a sword than a
right.
a cylindrical blade.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you have a blade of plasma that can cut through anything, you don't need it to have a particular shape.
Yeah, and like the Darksaber's old, dude. Like even in the new canon stuff that they gave, which I keep forgetting exactly how it goes, but it was one where they basically replaced the idea of Mandalore's helm with the Darksaber.
Right. And one of the things that I like about that is that they're almost making it so that it's like, okay, both could exist, and it's actually just that this is a new kind of Mandalorian culture where now it's the Darksaber instead of the helm or something like that.
Totally. It's just called it's called the Death Star. Just make it snipe everything in the system. Yeah, would love to see. How about seeing the rivalry between the Jedi and the Sith came to be?
Sure.
Yeah. There's precedent for the story about how they came from the same place, and then we had differing ideologies that started a split between factions and stuff. And while that's a bit cosmic in terms of the implications of the story. And usually, if you want to connect the audience, you kind of have to tell a human story, and that can kind of trivialize a lot of the things that makes them so different.
Mm-hmm.
It could be really interesting to go into way in the future when we get that far back into the past.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why I also really want to see more stories of characters falling to the dark side, but it being something that is more sympathetic. Not in that like, they're still a good person, they're not doing anything bad, but that you understand how they got there, because sometimes the dark side can come across as sort of it's this other entity force, if you will, that's like taking control of your mind, as opposed to what would be the ways that regular people without the force would fall to the dark side. Right.
Sure.
Another reason why I love Knights of the Old Republic 2 so much.
Yeah.
It explores that in some really, really cool ways.
Mm-hmm. If you remember correctly, the beginning conflict between the Jedi and Sith is real dark. I remember bare minimum things about it, but the issue is that there's no straight up comic with names and stuff with regards to characters. It's more told in general structure stuff. Like, so there was the Ashla and the Bogan, which was basically the names shorthand for the light side and the dark side, and those were the twin moons that orbited Tython. And Tython was the birthplace of the Force, not the Jedi and Sith specifically, but what ended up happening, I believe, was that the moon of the Bogan showed only its dark side to Tython, and Ashla showed its side with reflecting the star of the system. So then they basically was like, the light and dark side. And it was more something where they would meditate on those energies, and then some people were more drawn towards this
one or the other.
This thing, yeah. And I believe it took only a few hundred years or something like that before they just started all killing each other. Like it is basically we should have all been Nakama.
And then civilization, barbarism, there you go.
Human nature, people.
Right.
Yeah. War. Just, something like that. Have you watched Game Theory's things about the Jedi? I don't think so. I don't believe so. No. I'd love to see the story of Tar Vizsla, the creator of the Darksaber. Being in a Mandalorian Jedi is kind of a contradiction. It would be interesting to see how he'd be viewed by his fellow Mandalorians and Jedi, especially back when they were enemies. Yeah, I believe that is how the new canon is going. The exciting thing about a Mandalorian Jedi is just a reminder that two cultures being married together via one individual kind of practicing both just shows how much wiggle room there is in the Star Wars universe to have those kinds of connections. It's kind of like the idea of Mando trading and interacting with Tusken Raiders.
Sure.
We've never seen in Star Wars in Star Wars canon the Tusken Raiders actually work with other people on Tatooine.
Yeah.
Never seen that happen.
At most, it's sort of okay, we won't kill each other kind of interactions, but never actually cooperating for the same goal. Yeah.
Yeah, I think in the movies we've never.
Oh, definitely not in the movies.
Well,
yeah.
I was meaning in the Star Wars canon.
Oh, gotcha.
Even in the
Right.
Clone Wars, no, the Tusken Raiders are never friendly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I'm racking my brain because I think in Rebels there might be something, but they specifically make a point in Rebels to not go to Tatooine.
Oh, really?
Until like the very end, and that's when Maul encounters, Ben, Kenobi.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think that was a new thing there. So the plot of Naruto.
Basically,
Oh God.
it's
but
all
that's the
shown
thing.
in anime when it comes right down
Yeah.
to it, isn't it?
It really is, yeah. The Death Star becomes their center of influence, their universe, instead of just a weapon. Yeah.
Oh,
To
if they
be
could
fa-
portal shoot it to different planets.
Right. I think that was something that was brought up a little bit more in other stories that took basically their own ripoff of the Death Star, and the centralized floating station kind of thing was used more as a center of power rather than just I have my death laser.
Right.
Which is the 80s villain.
The Caped Emperor with his death ray.
Yes, my death ray. You'd love to see more about the witches on Dathomir.
Ooh, yeah.
Ooh. Yes, other force practicing cultures is very, very interesting. In Rebels, they shoot at Ezra, and that's about it. Thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say they didn't do much in Rebels, if I remember. Yeah, and then Maul killed them, if I remember correctly. Yes.
If it
Sounds
seems
about
weird
right.
that the Sith makes more sense to you than the Jedi, because the Jedi are such hypocrites, again, Old Republic stuff.
Old Republic stuff is a really good job with that.
especially it's really good. It's
Yep.
really good.
Yep. And we're talking about if the Death Star was a Dyson Sphere and functionally an immobile weapon that relied on far reach. Oh, gotcha. So they weren't sending it other places. They were sending their shots
To other places.
to other places. Cool.
Now
okay,
you're
yeah,
thinking with portals.
Yeah, now you're thinking with portals. Seriously. That would be terrifying.
Mm-hmm. At that point, you just
Oh.
give up.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, this is us just playing in the Star Wars universe, just thinking up ideas and things like that.
Yep.
I really feel like with The Mandalorian, if they decide to do more kind of main plot stuff, it'll be an adjustment, I would say, for me. Primarily because I haven't really felt the need for any grand plot.
Mhm.
Like, yes, I really didn't like the second episode, but it was not because not much happened in the plot. It was because of something else a little bit more terrifying.
Uh-huh.
Whereas with the first episode, it was almost entirely contained.
Yep. And
Like there was almost nothing that carried over into the second episode other than just the fact of
you're
hey,
starting on
found
Tatooine.
but found I know someone that found a group that of Mandalorians and stuff. You help them, go on your way and stuff like that. You'll be fine. But no, like I really love just episodic little mini adventures in the Star Wars universe. So do lots of that. I'm not familiar with other content, but Jedi and Sith philosophy both struck me as foolish because they were both extremes and so imbalanced.
Yep. Totally get it, Psych.
Yep. That's kind of the point, I
And
think.
and that is why Kreia is one of my favorite characters in Star Wars.
Yep. KOTOR 2, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out if you want to see a good deconstruction of Star Wars.
Yes. Yeah.
And I know that word is probably triggering for a lot of you because, yeah,
Because recent experiences.
recent fiction in general just hasn't done us good for deconstruction type narratives.
Yep. And if you play it, make sure that you play the Telos Restoration Project mod. Basically, if you go onto Steam, it's just the highest rated mod for the game, but it finishes the game. It's quite
Buy it on PC and just look up the thing. It'll be
Yeah.
in the workshop. It's amazing. Sith Society in the Old Republic is really interesting to me because being force sensitive can move you up the social ladder. Yep.
yes. Oh yeah. That like the whole. That's one of the reasons why I think I loved the Bane book so much is because it had that kind of like Ender's Game sort of like
Oh yeah.
like
But a bad guy.
meteoric rise to power, but just straight up a bad guy.
Just straight
right?
up a Sith, yeah.
And yet you can see where he started. Like he, they don't start with him being a Sith. He's, just a minor dude, right? But stuff happens, rough life and dog eat dog.
Yeah, the Darth Bane books are quite good, not for the characters as much as the setting and the struggle feel that you sometimes get in like a berserk like kind of sense.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
you feel like, what if Guts was the bad guy?
And the apostles were all like Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah. But some of them were Sith too.
Right.
Right.
But they were all way stronger than you.
But yeah,
and
you're
had their
up against
established
everybody.
Thing, and you're up against everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kinda. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Oh, Battlefront 2. Oh, that takes me back.
Wow. And you're talking about the classic
man.
Battlefront 2 too.
Yeah.
Oh man. Do you remember in Battlefront 2, Cobalt, the part where they go into the campaign and they have the little bits with the 501st? Do you remember that part, Cobalt? It was not a cinematic, but it was basically a story cutscene where they give you like dialogue, and I believe it's Rex basically like talking about the 501st and what it felt like on that night.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really good. It's a really good part in Battlefront 2 that gets referenced like in other Star Wars mediums. Of like, this was one of our coolest little insights we had into the clones before the Clone Wars TV show even.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Because the other main like clone perspective like game Star Wars thing that I can think of is Republic Commando, which I haven't actually played, but Wikipedia, I know the story, which I love. If you haven't, I don't know about the game necessarily because I haven't played it, but just check it out. The synopsis for it. It's cool.
It is pretty cool.
It's a really cool take on like the squad military kind of story, but then showing a side of the Jedi that might not necessarily be the best.
True. Oh, that was the campaign. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really good.
I don't think I ever
It's
actually
actually your
played
first time
Battlefront 2
playing
campaign.
it. Oh, you're gonna have a good time, Cobalt. That's a good game. The Revenge of the Sith novel adaptation is kind of better than the actual film. There's a couple things in the Revenge of the Sith novel that are
It
quite
was a good one, yeah.
yeah.
It really sold to me a lot more the idea of Anakin's desperation because he really thinks, shit, my wife's gonna die, right? Like, and okay, what do I do? All right, yes, this is actually the way that I save her. This is gonna be great. No, this I messed up.
Yeah, there's a lot more dark stuff also in Anakin's head in the latter half of the movie when it comes to the book as well. And it was something that made you feel that he wasn't himself. That one of the things that is kind of a tricky thing to write well when it comes to the dark side is whenever you have mind control effects in stories, it can really feel like you robbed a character of their characterization and agency. But in the novel, I remember Anakin's thoughts being so much just twisted and messed up about how much he's needing this thing to be pleasurable and something that he's enjoying because he's finally going to have, if he goes and delves so deep into the dark side, that he'll finally actually get that power to save Padme.
Right. And then at the end, I really liked the way they handled it in the book where at the end he was trying to kill Palpatine when he crushed everything.
Right.
But he couldn't because he wasn't strong enough. And then it's the thing of, I've fallen too far.
Right. So his no is him basically realizing that he's a slave.
Right.
That he'll never be free again.
Exactly.
And that
he's returned to that place on Tatooine where he was originally, basically. Yeah. Yes, and Palpatine definitely came off as less obviously evil.
Yeah, one of the best also Palpatine books in general, I would say, also is just the Plagueis book that kind of goes into the idea of Palpatine's master and him kind of sneaking their way amongst the Jedi and trying to not be as obvious and stuff. And this is pretty good. I feel like the prequels should have just focused on being a character story instead of trying to do everything in only about 6-ish hours. Yes, that is one of the tricky things with the prequels, is that they tried to set up a bunch of things that kind of awkwardly stick out like a sore thumb when you try to look at the movies as just individual movies. Like, that's why I think Attack the Clones is still like one of the most awkward ones of the movies, because you really feel the pacing just die every time they try to force in this idea in the second one versus them potentially being able to do it in the first one, because they wanted to show Anakin as a kid first and how he was brought up in that regard. Whereas I think it would have been a much smarter decision to have Anakin already be about 17 or 18 or something like that.
Sure, start with basically Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, but it's Obi-Wan and Anakin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, just go straight into it with the idea of like, nope, here's Anakin. Mm-hmm. How was he brought up? You can have some little flashbacks maybe if you want, but not much. I think we got way too little time to appreciate whatever romance they wanted to sell us on in there. And then also the B plots going on in other locations it just didn't work.
So maybe this would have been a really dark scene to add in, but I would, because who was it that mentioned it? Sychronia. The idea that Anakin going from wanting to defend his friend and Palpatine to I'm now going to, swearing my loyalty to being all evil and stuff. I would have loved to have had a scene and I think in the EU they said that basically these kinds of things happened when Anakin was Darth Vader, like in between 3 and 4 and stuff. And that was sort of how Palpatine truly kind of broke him down. But to have a scene where Anakin's like, "What have I done? Oh my God, I cut off Mace Windu's hand, and then that happened."
Right.
And then Palpatine's like, "All right, no, do all this stuff," and he's like, and Anakin says no or something, and then Palpatine just starts to crush him.
Yeah.
Physically or mentally or whatever, to basically break him down and say, "No, it's too late now. You're on my side."
Yeah, that would have been pretty intense, but it might have killed a little bit of the pain that we would have had with Anakin and Obi-Wan having to fight, because then is Anakin a slave at that point?
Yeah, and why wouldn't Obi-Wan have been able to reach him, kind of a thing?
Exactly.
Yep.
One of the things Sychronia bringing up is the whole theory regarding where Padme died because Palpatine was sapping the life out of her in order to
save
heal Anakin. And that is a cool theory. I really like it. I like even more the idea that even if he was doing that Anakin was in a relationship with Padme. If we're to say that he, as a being of the Force, made by the Force, had no connection through the Force to his wife, that's insanity. What if it's actually no? Anakin killed Padme
directly,
trying
not just
to
the
survive,
choking or whatever, but
just trying to live.
Oh man!
And any bit of connection that they had was abused essentially in that point of him lashing out in pain and anger, and something of that.
Sure,
nature
you turned her
just
against
killed
me,
her.
so then
Well, that's when he literally choked her.
Right. But then
out,
after that point, subconsciously or something, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you guys are referring to, because the Everything Great About Star Wars Cinema Wins video for Revenge of the Sith is one of the best Cinema Wins videos he has. And yeah, he focuses on the idea of Vader's heartbeat starts, essentially, right at the point where Padme dies. It's edited a little bit to kind of make it feel like it's the exact same time. But I believe there's quite a bit of time where they keep cutting back and forth between Padme giving the names of Leia and Luke to her actually dying, saying there's good in him still, to where Darth Vader is born, essentially. So it's not at the exact time, because I believe I went back and watched the movie, and it's more like it's very close. It is kind of in that regard, but George Lucas is great on ideas, but the execution is shaky. I feel like what it is Lucas. He knows what the story's kind of feelings were that he wanted to communicate, overall, and he really did. I would say he did a pretty good job on that execution wise for the most part. all the Vader stuff between episodes 3 and 4, some of the darkest and most depressing Star Wars content ever. Yes, the Vader comic is quite impressive in how it goes into that.
Oh yeah.
There's a new Vader comic that I highly recommend getting into.
Okay.
It's worth your time. Yeah. EGA talk now, Pogchamp. I love that YouTube channel so much. If I was ever to do like a discussion collaboration of some kind, oh my god,
That would be like
that would be one of my
dream.
favorites. Yeah, because I think it's almost theoretically possible. It's almost possible. I don't know what kind of video it would be on, but I think it would more be on like a stream if you ever did like one with regards to like discussing some kind of series or something. But we're not really known for our live action stuff specifically.
No, not exactly.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, I would not have been mad if Padme was the one who gave up her life of her own will.
Sure.
Possibly.
Yeah, there is good in him. So yeah, if she really believed it and wanted to make sure that there was that chance.
Yeah. I love that this is something we can also legitimately discuss because it's not so clear cut.
Right.
It's something that thematically just works no matter which way you look at it because it's a tragedy. It's one where we know how it had to go, and within the instance of did Padme have to die? Well, yeah, we've seen the original trilogy, so we know that Padme can't be around.
Right. Yeah, that'd be kind of weird if, if Luke's like, I know you are my father, Anakin Skywalker. Also, here's Mom's number,
Yeah.
Like, you should get back in touch.
You should get back in touch.
She still loves you, Like,
yeah, but that was recontextualized in a Disney thing like 5 years later, and then it's like, no, Padme actually did survive everything. It's like, oh, no.
No.
Yeah, but that is a cool clip. Have you seen the Everything Great?
I haven't.
Okay, yeah, you got to watch the prequel trilogy one because he does a really good job of, I would say, making you love little things about the prequels that you might have been like, oh yeah, I already knew that, but then he just has a really good perspective on it.
Like, did you ever stop and think about it, kind of a thing in this way? Like,
so like one of the little kind of things that I like is that he draws attention to lines in Revenge of the Sith that kind of make you believe more about Anakin's fall. Because one of the things that we as Star Wars fans that I would say is a little bit of a meta thing don't like about Anakin's fall was that he turned on the Jedi so quickly.
Right.
And
we didn't have enough of a foundation of how the relationship could have been positive in the first place, so it means something.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, but what he was bringing up was that there's actually a line in Revenge of the Sith that shows that there is actually no difference between the Jedi and the Sith. And it's he's too dangerous to be left alive. So Palpatine says it about Dooku in the beginning of Revenge of the Sith.
Sure.
And then he find out, oh, that's a Sith. That was a Sith way of doing things. Mace Windu says at that moment, he has control of the Senate of the Courts. He's too dangerous to be left alive. So he basically equated that because I have the power and the will, and I've made the decision that no, he's too dangerous to be left alive.
Right.
I am basically saying that when it comes down to it, I am no different than basically a Sith there because I can just choose who needs to live or die based on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was an extenuating circumstance, but at the same time, it's one where, Anakin had been like, no, that wasn't the Jedi way. Hold on, that was a mistake.
And it was also coming from the Jedi who had been literally the worst to him.
Yep.
The whole way through.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yep. There's a lot of little stuff like that. I love some of the commentary bits on episode 3. Yes, Khalid. There were some really good ones. Another one that was really cool was his fate will be the same as ours. No, leave him. I will never make it.
Right.
And then all 3 of them die on the Death Star.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, one of them technically didn't now. No, he did.
No, he did.
Well,
he
did. Yeah.
Anyway.
We don't need to talk about that. Oh, one of the greatest strengths of Star Wars is that it can be goofy fun with C-3PO and R2-D2. It can also be depressing character study of a man who ruined his entire life and lives in eternal torment and self-loathing.
Yep.
The universe is also vast in terms of tone. Yep. Mm-hmm. Damn, I was just going to mention that, Caleb.
That's really good.
Isn't that
I
cool?
like that a lot.
It's such a throwaway line, but it was one of those crucial moments where Palpatine's like, yes, I can separate them here.
Yeah.
Like, let's go. Yes.
Right.
Oh man.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, it's cool. But it's also like a 25-minute, 30-minute commentary track, basically, for Revenge of the Sith. So that's fun, too. Yeah. And Revenge of the Sith is one of the better Star Wars movies. Like, after you've rewatched, like, all the movies in general a bunch, you kind of, like, go on what's your top 5 Star Wars movies list? And it's like, Revenge of the Sith is probably in most people's top 5, I would say. Like, what's your, like, top 3 without doing an order? Like,
oh, God.
Like Star Wars movies.
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know. I mean, Empire Strikes Back is just so good. I don't want to just say the original trilogy because that feels like a cop-out. I don't know.
I have easy. It's just
I haven't
Empire, New Hope, and Revenge of the Sith.
There you go.
Those are my main 3 favorites.
I haven't actually watched Revenge of the Sith too many times.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've watched it a few times, but not that many.
Huh.
So I feel like I can't properly make a decision on that one.
Gotcha.
I personally kind of I always was a fan of Phantom Menace. I know a lot of people don't like it.
Yeah.
And I get that, but I get that.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun, and I feel like because it didn't have anything before it, I feel like it was a lot freer with what it did, and also
and
because
love Qui-Gon.
I love Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
I love Darth Maul. I love the fact that we were able to spend a lot of time on Naboo, and any acting issues with Anakin are excusable because he's a kid.
He's a kid, yeah.
Right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I would say if anything, if I had to switch out anything on the list particularly, I really did like Rogue One, like, quite a bit. Like, it was weird in that it told probably the most different Star Wars story of all the Star Wars movies. In that I really did feel like it was the Rebels versus the Empire, but that none of the rules of what that meant applied.
Gotcha.
So it was basically disguised as being similar, but it really wasn't. It was really different. I could say that it's not the most different, but it's probably the most different of all the ones that I liked. Yeah, I don't know. Also, Duel of the Fates. Yeah, Jacob, that's a good
Duel
point.
of the Fates is amazing.
Yep.
The whole pod race, I still say that was fantastic, even though the reasoning of why it needed to happen, but I love it.
Yeah, the pod race is amazing.
The pod race is just wonderful. Yep.
I can still hear the sound effects in my mind.
Oh yeah, it was so cool. Like if you want to have a death race, then yeah, do it this way where they're rocket engines just barely connected by little cables to a tiny little thing that's just big enough to hold a person, right? Yeah.
That's so awesome. Yeah.
Sure.
Oh man. Too bad him being a kid didn't stop the fans. Jeez. You know what's weird? Star Wars is like a religion you're ashamed to be a part of at times.
Oh, sure. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh my God, it is!
That happens with all religions once they get big enough.
Yes, that's so true! Oh my God, it's so true! Star Wars is basically a religion that there's people in it that are like, no, it's just good stuff, right? We don't hurt anyone. We're not, crazy or anything. And then it's
they're
like
the zealots.
But then you have like that 10% that's extremely vocal, and you're like, yeah, those people, they take it a little bit too seriously, and I'm like one of those people that's unfortunately kinda in the 10%. Like I'm kinda close to that, so every once in a while I'm like, oh no, the cult part is coming up. Calm down, Caleb.
It's actually just, I feel like the 10th of the 10%, like that's bad. Like there's the 1% that's bad that is.
And then there's the kind of bad that's like the 20% then. It's fandoms in general.
Fandoms in general can get
are culty.
messy and definitely
General.
cultic. Yeah, there's a reason the term cult classic exists.
Yeah.
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 But Star Wars is a ton of fun. Like okay, here as a sort of representation parallel. Words are tough, but me and Caleb have talked about how one of the things that brought us to anime was because we were so starved for good fantasy television, right?
Yes.
Absolutely starved. Our standards were very low before that, and then we found anime, and we were like, this is
wonderful.
oh my god.
We found our home.
How did it take us this long?
We're home.
Yeah, exactly. But I have that whole feeling just for Star Wars. Just for Star Wars. Star Wars isn't even a genre, it's just a world. But that's the amount of just love I have for this place. So and the fact that The Mandalorian is coming out and things like that, because I'm not gonna lie, you know, the prequel trilogy did kind of take that down a peg, right? And the prequel or the sequel trilogy, the sequel trilogy, and the prequels didn't necessarily help that, but there was a lot of other content that came around surrounding that.
Right.
But I haven't really felt like there was a ton of awesome extended universe sort of content to be able to sink my teeth into since then.
Right.
But now we have The Mandalorian, and it's starting to open up back more, and this the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day.
Yes.
Yeah.
And here we are. And this is one of the smaller podcasts we've had because we're not really known as the Star Wars people.
Right.
We really love Star Wars, though, guys. I hope you can see that when we go into the Mandalorian reactions and discussions. And those of you that are also like huge fans of Star Wars as well, or even just like you find just the Mandalorian show kind of fun because it's, you know, it's something different that's out there right now.
Yep.
I hope that we can all just share our passion for that and talk about it and discuss and stuff together and have a good time in general. Having Jaren find Ahsoka, I am no Jedi, Tano works so well for the nuanced way we're looking at very binary aspects of Star Wars, which to me is the series' biggest success. Tusken Raiders being a people rather than just savages, and the New Republic policing the galaxy in opposition to our hero as the latest examples. Good, great points there.
And
yes,
excellent reference to that line of "I am no Jedi," because oh boy,
that's gonna be good because he's gonna be like, "I heard you were one of the Jedi," and she's like, I'm actually not a Jedi. Like, I hope she doesn't use it in. I don't know if she should say her line in that way. Thankfully, the character writing has been much better than like the prequels in general. But I would love to have an homage to the "I am no Jedi" moment. That would be really cool. All the fans are gonna basically start crying in that part. Like, not that. If you don't cry or something, or you don't freak out about that, you're not a fan. I'm just meaning, like, I know a lot of fans that will feel that way if that happens.
It is so much. Okay, so one of the things that me and Caleb do is, so we record our reaction to Mandalorian, right? Like, right when it comes out.
As soon as possible,
and then literally that evening, go and watch it with some other people, right? And it is so much fun, you know, social distance, all that stuff, but it is so much fun to watch the reactions of these other people that are also crazy Star Wars fans when things like Ahsoka is mentioned, and they're just or Bo-Katan, or just the fact that it's what's her name, the actress, but Starbuck,
Katie Sackhoff.
You know, Katie Sackhoff, yeah, like, and they just freak out.
Yeah,
it is.
There was the wife of one of our friends basically had this moment when she's like, "There you will find Ahsoka Tano." She basically went, like she like throw herself back, grabbed like the arms of her chair, what have you, and just like. Like, it was so adorable. I had to just squeal in joy seeing it because she's a huge Ahsoka fan, but it was just one of those moments where she was like, "Oh, is this really happening?" It's so good. Yeah. It's crazy how Ahsoka went from a character people rolled their eyes at back in 2008 to a character now considered one of the greatest Star Wars characters of all time.
And I was one of those people.
It's really funny to think about, too.
Granted, I was 13 at the time, but
she wouldn't have worked if she was in the movies, though. Because it was a TV show. I'm telling you, that's how it worked. Yeah. Yeah, the Ahsoka thing was one that I definitely had heard rumors about, but it was one where I didn't know how they would bring it in.
Right.
But the Bo-Katan one, that one was a cool surprise.
Cool.
That was
And
a
the
cool
armor
surprise.
looks like straight lifted from the Clone Wars. It's amazing.
You want to know something? If you
What?
look straight at where she's last shown in Rebels,
It's
literally the same.
Really?
It's exactly the same.
Wow.
Down to the hairstyle, the metal clamp right on her head, everything.
And apparently,
Exactly the same.
it
It was designed intentionally that way.
well, right, but she also was the original voice for Bo-Katan.
No, she is the voice for
Yeah,
Bo-Katan. She was always the voice for Bo-Katan.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is that's just cool on
But the
its
reason
own.
why they did that though was that Filoni is thinking ahead and being like, I'm gonna make her look like Katie Sackhoff.
He's playing the long game. He's Palpatining this. Like, eventually, he's just going to, like, sit down with some Disney execs, and he's going to be like, you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Revan? I thought not. It's not a story the movies would have told you.
Yeah.
It's a BioWare legend.
It's a fan legend.
Yeah, yeah.
It's part of legends.
Right.
Yeah. Great to see them with all the amazing moments in the latest episode. The biggest talking point is Mandalorian titty armor. Jesus. Like, I can't believe anyone would get upset about that with regards to Star Wars. Like, first off, armor in general in Star Wars has been a joke until the Mandalorian stuff, because now the people who are like, wait, why is it that Star Wars armor doesn't work? It's like, well, it's because it's cheap.
Yep.
There is Star Wars armor that's worked in the EU for a long time.
But guess what? That shit's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Expensive enough that basically anyone, who, even if they were going to help you originally, they see you've got this and they're like, I'm going to try and kill this person, even though it probably definitely won't work, just because if I do, I will be set for life.
Yeah, it was kind of funny how the last episode, they basically had a perfect plan for it too. The Korans,
Yep.
like, he was going to die.
Oh, yeah.
He was not getting out of that.
Right, because this is not something where he has mechanized Beskar Gam yet.
Yeah.
That comes later.
Right. Unlimited
Profit! Yeah.
Wow.
You know
So
it would
true.
be. Like,
Yeah, Lunar, I'm with you. I'm with you, Lunar. Oh, yes. Look, I just want a Jar Jar redemption arc, okay?
no,
What does he have to redeem himself from? Oh,
The
right.
Sith ways.
The Sith ways, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. Mhm. Yeah.
Well, right. That was one of the things that was so darkly, like, intriguing about when the EU would go into the Imperial War Machine, is that stormtroopers, not worth the cost of good armor. TIE fighters, not worth the cost of shields, a hyperdrive, being able to land.
Yeah, who was fighting back? No one.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It is kind of funny, though, how that is a legitimate plot point, though, that's in canon, is just the idea that the stormtroopers were essentially garbage to the Empire.
Yep.
There were, more highly trained stormtroopers than others, just like any army would have, but that they were basically just force conscripting like tons of people just so
Right.
that they could have an army that spanned a galaxy.
And if you think about it,
It's dark.
if you have people where you can't see any bit of their actual person,
Yeah.
then that makes sense, because then it becomes a symbol. It's not about whether or not, because people don't fight back to stormtroopers. If they do, they get crushed because, unless they're, well, Luke.
Stormtroopers came from a Star Destroyer, first of all.
Yeah, first of all.
First of all.
First of all, like, and with one of those things, just
Doesn't matter about
in
the
the sky,
Stormtroopers' aim. Yeah. Your city's getting carpet bombed.
Right.
Ugh. Yeah, crazy stuff. Oh my gosh. But yeah. Thanks for tuning into this podcast, guys. It was cool
Yeah.
to talk Star Wars with all y'all because we're in a hyped time for Star Wars.
We are
And
indeed.
We want more of this. This is
All of it, give
this
it
is-
to
This
us.
is a very, very fun time. Star Destroyers don't even have landing gear. Yeah.
Exactly.
Why a land?
Right. When you're, a mile long, you don't really enter atmosphere. That doesn't happen.
Yes, Psychronia. Yes, exactly. Pretend this little stone is a single stormtrooper.
Yeah.
I didn't even feel it. No, this one? No. How about this?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why Finn's character could have been the most genius thing about the sequel trilogy.
I loved him in The Force Awakens.
The Last Jedi decided he wasn't going to be a thing. Yeah.
Yep.
But anyhow, y'all, thank you so much for hanging out, enjoying our podcast here. Be sure to tune in on our other streams, all at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Monday to Friday. Monday is our podcast where we discuss topics, stories, and the like. And then Tuesday, we have our One Piece dramatic manga readings. Those are quite fun. On Wednesday and Friday, I'm doing Hades right now. And then Jacob on Thursdays is playing
Persona 4 Golden. Yeah. And we just got to a kind of a important part with a new fight stage, I will say. Cool. That's all I'll say about that.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. God in Erusama, yo bro, sorry for harshing the Star Wars vibe at the beginning of the stream with my One Piece hype. Oh, no worries.
No worries at all.
I was just excited to catch a Monday podcast live for the first time and also a live stream in my first full day as an actual Twitch user. Hey, sweet deal. But now that I hit you with a follow, I'll be back tomorrow for more One Piece. Have a great night, guys.
You too.
You too. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. But yeah. Take care, guys. See you in the next one. Hopefully tomorrow, or maybe in some of the gaming streams. But
Indeed.
Until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time.
All right. That was good. Awesome. I hit 72 hours in Persona 4 Golden. I burned out as hell. Just gonna wait for your streams to recover.
How many hours am I in right now?
Yeah.
Because I've been averaging about 5 hours a stream. So
about 30 maybe?
I think about 30. Not sure.
When did you start?
Can't remember.
Was it like September, October?
This whole year has been such a mess. I don't even know.
Did I end Dark Souls around the time that you started Persona 4 Golden?
I feel like it was similar. Yeah.
Was it that similar?
Not like a few
I've
weeks
done
off
a
probably.
lot of Hades streams. Oh, right. But I've had 2 Hades streams a week. So that's right. So it actually might not have been that long.
Yeah, so 2 Hades streams a week, that's about the same amount of time.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. But you do 5-hour streams too.
It's the game loop is really good. It's really good at making just be like
the
all
ending
right,
of Battle Lines?
just a little bit more.